Hi, this is Deacon Larry, and this is Renewed. Sisters and brothers, welcome back to Renewed. We've been talking about holidays and celebrations within the church year. Coming up this coming weekend, actually on Monday, is on July 3rd, we will celebrate the Feast of Saints Peter and Paul. Traditionally, this feast is celebrated on June 29th, but this year it is moved to July 3rd. The Feast of Saints Peter and Paul is a holy day of obligation in many countries in the world. It's not held to be a holy day here in the United States. It is important to us nonetheless. The reason Saints Peter and Paul are both saints of the Church of Rome. If you think about St. Peter, called to be the rock upon which Christ would build his church, St. Peter went from Jerusalem to Antioch and eventually settles in Rome, where he shepherds the church as what we would describe as the first amongst the popes in the history of the church. St. Paul, that great persecutor of the Jews, undergoes his conversion, is called to faith, and then makes his apostolic journeys through Turkey, through Greece, and eventually ends up in Rome. Both Peter and Paul are martyred in Rome. There's an ancient tradition that they were martyred on the same day, although that we don't necessarily think that to be the case today. They were martyred in the same period, somewhere between 64 and 68, when Nero was the emperor of Rome. And a great persecution, St. Peter was crucified upside down so as not to be crucified in the way of Christ, as his request, we are told. St. Paul was beheaded, both losing their life in Rome. When the Holy Father refers to the role of himself as Bishop of Rome, he sees himself as Bishop of Rome representing both the ministries of Peter and Paul. Peter, the great shepherd of the church, and Paul, the great missionary. St. John Paul characterized that very well in his life, as did Benedict, as does St. Francis, that the Pope is not only the one who's shepherding and governing and unifying the church, but also the one who is on missionary journeys to the corners of the world to make sure that the gospel is proclaimed for all. Sisters and brothers, there is a call for us in the Feast of St. Peter and Paul to take seriously our baptismal call, that we may be voices of the unity of the church, but also of the mission of the church. As Pope Francis so often says to us, we're each called to the baptismal responsibility of being missionary disciples. Living that way, not only in the image of Paul and the image of Peter, but also in the image of Christ. Sisters and brothers, we may be renewed.
Please like, subscribe, or comment below.